Today I'll be profiling it's a deck that I've been playing for the last year or so. It's my favorite deck, really. I play competitively and I play, I know the game theory, I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory, I'm current with Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory. But this is the deck I enjoy playing, regardless of the meta. It's Traptrix Ninja, and that it's an anti-meta deck that people know what it does. I mean, people have heard of it before, but they never really established it as a good deck or a viable deck. People play Senju, they think it's a good deck. People play Ritual Beast, they think it's a viable deck. I mean, there are other decks out there that are viable that, you might not have heard of, you might not recognize as being viable, but this is definitely one of them. And, I've been playing this deck, I've been pushing it hard for about a year now. It has a success. It plays well against anything. I'm confident I can win in mostly any game. But I'll explain exactly how the deck works as I go through it. There's a lot of ninja variants in the rotation. There's like the Mist Valley ninjas and the Dragon ninjas, the Drak Waiba, the Drak ninjas, and Pendulum ninjas, and etc. And this is probably the least played one, but even though this is the least played one, I think it's the best one. It's the best ninja variant to play. And I'll show you how to toolbox with it and exactly what the options are and how it competes in the meta, etc. Although I haven't used it for a few weeks, I'm trying to profile it before the actual next ban list catches us. This is 36 cards I'm going to show you right now. The rest are mostly flavor cards, but I'll tell you what's missing and what's not. Start with 3 Grandmaster Ninja Hanzo. It is a ninja deck, and he's the main ninja in the archetype. And although it is a ninja deck, he's the only ninja I actually play. His first effect is when he's normal summon, you can add 1 ninjutsu or spell trap card from your deck to your hand. And which you run two different cards, 2 different ninjutsu arts in your deck. He goes with your playstyle in that it's a set 5 deck, it's a trap deck. And when you normal summon him, you add a trap from your deck to your hand, and then that trap lets you toolbox into different abilities. And the next card also lets you +1 on its normal summon into another trap. And this and the other card that lets you +1 Mermelio. They have strong synergy with each other in that Hanzo can actually recruit Mermelio from the deck, which opens up other doors or other options in this deck. So 3 Hanzo. Next is 3 Traptrix Mermelio. Like Hanzo, when she's normal summoned, you can add 1 normal trap card from your deck to your hand, and when she's special summoned, you must destroy 1 spell trap card on your opponent's side of the field. The trap card that Hanzo searches you, in Jitsu Art of Transformation, its effect is you tribute 1 face-up ninja type monster on your side of the field, and special summon a monster with the level of the monster you tributed, or at most the level of the monster you tributed +3. So if you tribute a level 4 monster like Hanzo, you can special summon a level 7 or under monster. Level 7 or under insect, beast, or wing beast type monster. Mermelio is an insect, so Hanzo can special summon Mermelio from your deck to pop a back row. So even if you don't run MST, you can still have a strong option of destroying back row. And also when it's normal summoned, like Hanzo, you can add a trap from your deck to your hand, so it is a +1 deck. Her and Hanzo are essentially the core of your deck, or the focus. To complement those 6 other cards, you run 3 Dionea. The reason you're allowed to run 3 Dionea in here is because unlike other decks who can't recruit Mermelio from the deck and can't set up Dionea plays, and Dionea can be dead in the hand, so they can only run 1 or 2. The fact that your Hanzo can recruit Mermelio from your deck means you can set up Dionea plays within your first few turns consistently. So that fact alone means you're allowed to run. This is a seriously powerful card if you can set it up, and if you're allowed to run all 3, you should run all 3. If you could run 4 or 5 in here, I would too. So these 9 monsters are essentially the focus of the deck. Hanzo goes into Mermelio. Mermelio sets up Dionea plays, and Mermelio and Hanzo search traps, so you can set 5 traps. So those are essentially the focal monsters, and then you have the flavor monsters to go next into the alternative Hanzo targets. This is Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. Hanzo, the ninjutsu art of transformation, can special summon this from your hand or deck as well. So its effect is no monsters can be special summoned except for wind type monsters. So if your opponent's making a special summon push, such as Necroz, activate a ritual spell card, you can chain your ninjutsu art of transformation to the ritual spell, special summon this from your deck, and if they can't special summon a wind type monster, of course, which Necroz can't, the spell will resolve without effect. And there's another cool thing against Necroz is they have to run it over with Manju or Senju, so if you have some kind of battle trap to protect it from them, you can stall them for a good while. And it has application in other duels as well, but it's essentially because of a Necroz relevant meta that this card is good. I wouldn't have used it in the Burning Abyss or Shadow meta, but when it's Necroz as the meta deck, I think it's a really good card to add in. It's also a win for this next card. Dark Simorgh is the last one. Right now I'm iffy between Dark Simorgh and Apex Avian. I've always been a fan of Dark Simorgh, namely for the fact that you can special summon it from your hand, or Apex Avian you can't do that. But Apex Avian's ability to negate and destroy a card I think is a bit more relevant right now. There's not much setting. Dark Simorgh's other effect is your opponent cannot set any cards, which is like a floodgate. It's essentially a floodgate, but that was better in a Cleafort and Satellar Knight and Burning Abyss, the Trap Burning Abyss meta, where it could win you games like that. Right now you're mostly shotgunning your Simorgh against Ritual Beasts, so they can't set their back row, and really nothing else, maybe Tellers, but no, really nothing else. Or Tellers or Cleafort, if you see them. Essentially you usually wait until their end phase, and instead of making this before they set anything, usually wait until the end phase to make a Remelio and pop a card, which I think is better, because even though it's a floodgate, they still get to keep the cards that they're not allowed to use, where Remelio actually pops them and nets you advantage. And Remelio also sets up your Dionea plays and rank 4s and stuff. For the other flavor cards, you have one, Thunder King Ryo. It's the best. It's really the best standalone monster in the game, and it's it's an anti-meta monster. It's a stun monster. It's another normal summon in this deck. Although you might seem like it's too many normal summons, Remelio doesn't always count. You only normal summon 1 or 2 Remelio in a game, and Hanzo probably special summons 1 or 2. So in essence, you're only normal summoning your Hanzo or Dionea. So you only have maybe 7 or 8 normal summons in this deck, which is a really fair number. So I put Thunder King in because it's good against essentially any matchup. He's really never bad. I mean, at least he's 1900. And lastly, you have 2 Effect Veiler. I enjoy Effect Veiler a lot in this deck for a few reasons, namely Denko Sega. This is a trap heavy deck, and Denko Sega, there's not too many answers to Denko Sega. Like even if you custom tailored your deck to counter Denko, there's not many traps that actually counter it. You kind of need a hand trap like Effect Veiler. It's supposed to be 2 here. There's only 1 in right now. So you put Effect Veiler in for namely 2 reasons. Effect Veiler is actually a trap. It is essentially a trap. But I do run 3 Mind Crush in here, and the fact that you run Mind Crush and Effect Veiler means Effect Veiler can stay in your hand as a hand trap, and you can still activate your Mind Crushes, because Effect Veiler stays in your hand, whereas if it was another trap, you'd have to set both that trap that is an Effect Veiler and Mind Crush, and you might not be allowed to activate Mind Crush. So, no nuances like that, and I think negation is still kind of strong. Right now, you're seeing more Burning Abyss and Cleafort, and this card is useless. Is useless against either one of them. So, it might actually just come down, and then have more tailor-made answers in the extra deck. I mean, in the side deck for Denko, but at the moment, there's 2 Effect Veiler. And that's all for the monsters. Next onto the spells is 3 Rhoda, 3 Reinforcement of the army. My ratio is 3 Rhoda, 3 warriors. I think that's fair. Normally I like 3 Rhoda, 4 warriors, or 2 Rhoda, 3 warriors. Always have more warriors than your actual Rhoda. This way you don't have dead Rhodas in your deck, such as in times where Rhodas at 1 on the ban list, you weren't really allowed to warrior toolbox. Like if you had 1 warrior or 2 warriors in your deck and 1 Rhoda, it wasn't really that consistent. But now that you have 3 Rhoda, you can warrior toolbox very well. You run 3 Rhoda for 3 Hanzo. Logic being is, well, number 1, you want a more consistent deck, but On your turn 1, you always want to have your +1 normal summon. You don't want to normal summon Dynea. You don't want to have, I mean, you can normal summon Thunder King, but you always want a Hanzo or Morelio on your turn 1, essentially. So, Rhoda basically lets you have 9 normal summons, or 9 cards in your deck to normal summon on your turn 1. Just lets you meet your engine quicker, essentially. It's very rare that you actually have dead Rhodas in your deck. The other consistency boosting spell is 3-Pot Duality. This card is crucial in here. It's vital. It has very strong synergy in the deck where you normal summon often. I mean, it's a control deck. You normal summon and set the traps, and so you control when you special summon. You can special summon. You know exactly when you're going to special summon. It's not really just a random occurrence. So you normal summon a Hanzo or Morelio, search a trap from your deck, and then you use Duality, and then add another powerful trap from the top of your deck, and then set 5 again. It also lets you meet pieces quicker. It lets you refine your engine in the deck that's not archetypal, so the engine actually isn't defined for you. It's not like you don't have Bryos or Shuret or Claws searching cards for you. So this helps you speed through your deck and get pieces that you need. You definitely need all 3. For the 2 other power spells, I probably wouldn't run Book of Moon. I don't run it on Dueling Network, but again, this deck isn't. I don't have all pieces with me, so it's kind of like a filler for now. And the Regeki, I mean, these essentially, the reason they went in is because of Denko Seka. When Denko was prevalent, maybe a month or 2 back. Right now, it's not so much, but you could play this on your turn, flip down Denko, destroy Denko. And that's essentially the reason you had it. They're just power spells. There's not much explanation for them. I don't like Book of Moon right now. I haven't liked it for a few months now, but keep it. These are the 2 other spells that have to be talked about. This is Armor Ninjutsu of Alchemy and Magic Planter. The spells serve essentially basically the same function, in that they destroy a trap, or they destroy a trap, or they tribute a trap, and then you draw 2. They're really similar cards. The reason I won't run of each is actually I prefer this one. This came in at a certain point. I've always had this in here. This card you can set up. Hanzo can search into it, so it's a consistent card as part of your engine. You know when you're gonna have it. You can plan for it. You can add it to your hand whenever you want, or whenever you plan for it. And this card you have to draw into it. You have to set it up. It's kind of sacky. It's more like a top deck. In a deck that does actually run a lot of continual spells, so there's really no reason not to run it. At least there's no real reason not to run one. So I run one Magic Planter just to help me speed through my deck, or clear cards off the field, and etc. Give me a little boost every so often. But this card, you can set it up. I prefer this one. You always really know when you're going to be able to draw 2 with this. With this, you don't know so much. So those are all the spells. For the traps, we're going to start out with the searchable traps. These are the Hanzo searchable traps. Ninjutsu Art of Transformation. Its effect is, which I stated earlier, is activate. You tribute a face-up ninja on your side of the field. Special summon a beast, winged beast, or insect-type monster from your deck whose level is at most the level of the monster you tributed +3. So if you tribute a Hanzo, again, it's level 4 + 3 = 7. So max level you can special summon is 7. So 3 Hanzos and 3 Ninjutsu Art cards, including the 3 Hanzos and 3 Ninjutsu Art cards. This card lets you special summon. The targets for this card in your deck are Morelio. The targets for this card are Morelio, Samorg, and a barrier statue. So again, this turns Hanzo into essentially 3 different options. It turns Hanzo into a Vanity. It turns it into a Beat Stick or a Floodgate. It thins your deck by 1, of course, and it turns it into an MST. And aside from turning into an MST, if you go into Morelio, you also set up your Dynea plays, like I said earlier, so you can make Dynea whenever you draw it. And Dynea is the game winner, so it's a game changer. So those are your Hanzo targets. Again, Samorg might be Apex Avian. That's still kind of in research right now, but that's how it is. I mean, the deck still works either way, whatever you choose. Then for the Morelio searches, it's one bottomless, one time space trap hole, and then it's supposed to be two Traptrix trap hole nightmare. This is my favorite one right now. It's my favorite one right now. I'm supposed to have two in here. I keep this in for those Shadows and Burning Abyss matchups, and it's not really bad against Necros still and random Exceed decks, and I still like this card a lot. I just leave it in because it's not a bad card. It's never a terrible card. There's very few matchups where it's not a good card where I can just side out after game one. Because they're all very real traps and you can search them all, so I think it's smart to keep them all in. But yeah, those are your Mermelio targets. And then for your power traps, you have the 3 Mind Crush, which is the format trap right now. There's always like a format trap, whether it be Black Horn of Heaven or Song of Morning or Compulsory or etc. This is essentially the format trap. It became so because of Necros, but it's got its time, it's got its moment to shine against any matchup. So I run it against. Again, I've mentioned the Effect Veiler synergy with it, so there's not much explaining Mind Crush. It's just one of the better traps right now. This is also the other trap that I think is one of the better ones in the format, Fiendish Chain. I don't know how to explain Fiendish Chain why it's actually a good card, because it's obviously a good card. It's not like there's any pros or cons for it because it's just a good card. It's simply a good card. It's a continuous spell for your Magic Planter. In your Necros matchup, if they have a Senju or Manju, a Ju in the field, and you go into your Barrier Statue with the Stormwinds, this functions as a battle trap in that you prevent them from attacking your Barrier Statue, and they can't special summon water monsters still. So it does come up often, and of course against any other matchup, it does whatever you want, negates an effect, stops an attack. It's simply a good card. Sometimes people don't use it, sometimes they do. There's never really any indication of why it's a good card or when it's a good card, but it just simply happens to be a good card at certain times, and this is one of those times where it's a very good card. The rest of the traps, we still have one more vital card. Call of the Haunted is vital in here, like it's vital in Satellar's. Even though it's true, you don't want to run all 3 because you don't want to draw it early. Satellar's going to set up their grave a bit earlier than you can. But what the card can do, or what the card does do in this deck is, ninja players essentially normally run it because Hanzo has a special summon effect where you can search another ninja. I'm not running it so much for that, but you'll notice that every monster in this deck has some kind of effect, either on field or when it's special summoned. So it lets you recall the Haunted toolbox into so many different abilities. It lets you call the Haunted toolbox into so many different abilities. In that it can be a MST with Mermelio, it can be a Vanity's Emptiness with your Barrier Statue, it can be a Mistake with your Ryo, or of course you can prevent an Exceed Summon. And if you prevent an Exceed Summon with Thunder King, the funny thing is the 2 level monsters that they're probably going to exceed with are not over 1900, so if you prevent the summon, or if you put it on the field, they can't attack over it, and of course they can't Exceed Summon, or they don't want to. Dynea lets you recover Trap Hole, and some more, of course, it's a beat stick, and it's kind of a floodgate in certain situations. So Call of the Haunted lets you cherry pick strongly. It also lets you set up Exceed plays, because you really don't have Exceed plays unless you have a Dynea in hand. You notice none of these cards turn into other, they never, you don't spam level 4s or anything. Dynea does, that's about it. So Call of the Haunted can sometimes put a level 4 in your field so you can make them go into your extra deck. So it's a very vital card. You want to see it often, but you don't want to see it early, so you only run 2 of it. And then 2 other flavor cards, of course, Vanity's Emptiness, which is, I ran 3, one was at 3, I have to run 1, one was at 1. It's not so much of a flavor card, it's obviously a good card, but when it's only at 1, you can't really rely on it. So it's a flavor card. And I've been using 2 Mirror Force. People told me to use Mirror Force, I never really enjoyed the card. It's not good, it's not bad. Nobody can tell you why it's good or why it's bad at a particular time. But I enjoy the fact that in a lot of matchups like Heroes or whatever, if you put your Barrier Statue out and you have battle traps like Fiendish Chain and Mirror Force, you can actually protect your Barrier Statue and really slow the tempo of the game. I kind of enjoy that fact, and I've resolved Mirror Force often, but I still don't enjoy it. I don't like waiting for them to attack. I don't like them having options up until they attack. I like to be able to respond. I like to have responsive traps. You know, I mean, traps I can use at any time. But that's actually it for the main deck. The main deck is only a few cards short, but those few cards I'm missing are flavor cards. The extra deck is nothing new in it. The extra deck is rank 4 extra deck. I just wanted to talk about Constellar Knight Petroleumist. I think Petroleumist is actually a really strong new card for rank 4 decks, and that the options it gives you to either go into a rank 5 or Constellar Knight Diamond against Burning Abyss or Tellers or Shadows in here. The 2 rank 5s I use are Pleiades and Tiras. Tiras because if they activate the Regeki, you can chain your Petroleumist and then special summon Tiras, and Tiras won't be destroyed. So it's kind of like a kind of walls. You can kind of wall up on your Tiras. And of course, it's 2600. Then Pleiades, of course, is Pleiades, probably the best rank 5 in the game. So I think Petroleumist adds a lot of options in this deck where you can you summon your Dionea, right? You can summon Dionea, special summon a Merm. So that's like a +2 for special summon Dionea and if you don't want to summon Dionea and special summon a Merm, because Merm's +1, the Merm pops a card, so it's +2, and then you exceed. For Petroleumist, and Petroleumist gives you options, because I think he's usually better than any rank 4 you can make outside of the power rank 4s like Castellar or Exciting. So there's nothing about the extra deck I can explain. If I was going to talk about the side deck, side deck's Iron Walls. There's nothing really unusual about it. There's a Chaos Trap Hole in there. Let me see. But yeah, I mean, it's really the main deck that's important. It's the main deck you want to talk about. I mean, I could give a sample hand, even though it's not 40 cards. I'll give you whatever it is, 36 card sample hand, and then I'll try to show exactly what the point of the opening is. Number 1, you want to go first, and since it's kind of a format, or it was kind of a format where people wanted to go second, Shadows and Necros would want to go second. Never mind, it's a terrible hand. I'm not going to show this on camera, but I think this is the best Ninja variant, and it's also very cheap. It's a very cheap deck as well. Everything in here is very budget. There's a few things that, might be a few dollars, but when it adds up, the whole deck's on the cheap, and it's very competitive. It's very competitive as an anti-meta deck. It's as competitive as anti-meta deck can be, in my opinion, outside of a deck like anti-meta Cleafort, where you do have, hard matchups. But that's all for now. Thank you.